Welcome to Sunday Morning Out Loud podcast, sponsored by On the Path. And we're here today with Assistant Vice Principal and otherwise all-around coach and mentor, and a guy that I've been fortunate to work with and be a part of his leadership skills and the things that he does well. And we're really excited to have Craig Fox with us and to talk a little bit of admin and COVID and all the things that go along with it. It's a really interesting subject, and welcome and good morning, Craig. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
So I think just to start off, it's kind of give us an overview of your journey, educational journey. Where'd you come from, and obviously up and through until you become an admin and doing those kind of things. So give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where you never think you're going to be an educator, and that's not what my life goal was growing up or anything. But I always had positive experiences in school, and so school was always a good thing in my life. But I went off and started out in business and worked for IBM for a while, and just really wasn't fulfilled with chasing the dollar and looking around at everybody having heart attacks at 40 and pushing hard. They worked hard and they played hard, and I'm just like, is this the path I really want to go on? And so I finally ran into an old teacher who said, hey, why don't you think about being a teacher and kind of paying it forward kind of thing. And I thought, well, let's see, I get summers off and I get to coach and get to hang out with teenagers. That's a win-win right there to keep Fountain of Youth going. And so
the old pay it forward line. Gotcha, huh?
Well, that was right when the movie was popular, I guess. I don't remember, but it seemed like a lot better life than what I had been living at that moment. And so got into it and just found my niche. It was like, this is really cool. I would do this for, I don't want to say for free because you got to pay your bills, but it was filling my soul in other ways that, than just filling the pocketbook. And it was really cool. And so I just became a teacher. And for 24 years, I was in the classroom teaching high school, both English and drama. And it was right at the time when testing became really big. And I'm like, oh man, as an English teacher, that's a lot of pressure because, if your kids aren't performing, you're considered a bad teacher. And you're like, well, if let me think here, drama, there's no test for drama. So I get to just, I get to do improv games with the kids and, have fun with them and stuff. And then I ended up doing that more full time than they gave me more drama classes than English classes.
Huh. Did you have background in that, Craig?
Well, that was what was interesting. I was in some plays and stuff, but I only took like one, elective in college just to get some fine arts credit. And never I kind of was staying a chapter ahead of the kids. And the great thing about teachers is everybody collaborates and you steal from each other and you go to conferences and you kind of learn a little bit and just keep adding more and more to your repertoire as you go. And I felt like I was okay at the end, but I want to go back and apologize to my first year students. They got kind of ripped off.
You guys are doing mime and stuff in there, like
yeah, exactly right.
It's funny, Craig. Tom and I had a conversation the other day about I coached Tom in my first real full year of coaching high school football, and our staff had taken over at St. Paul, and we, other than the head coach who had about, I think probably 5 years of head assistant coaching experience, we were all fairly brand new. So I apologize to Tom too, looking back and Tom asking questions about that, we just were young, so you don't know, until and then when you do know, you know, the light goes on and you go, ah, shit, you know.
And then we interviewed a guy that I coached in like my third year, and I said the same thing. I was like, man, we were just pissing vinegar. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just forget, you know, shake it till you make it kind of thing. It was fake it till you make it, you know. But
you know, I think the kids know that your heart is in the right place, and you're pouring everything you know into them. It's just you don't have a whole lot right now, but you know, I think that goes a long way, even more than the mastery of the subject. It's just somebody investing in your life.
Yeah. I told my son, he came out and coached with me just like, cause he was in between semesters or whatever. And he goes, Pop, I don't know if I know enough to coach. I said, well, how much do you know? Do you know 10 things or you know 100 things? He goes, I know 10 things. I said, well, just make sure you coach those 10 things every single day. And then when you learn 11, do 11, you know, and he was like, oh, okay, I can do that, Pop. I said, okay, we're going to be really good at 10 things. There's no doubt about it, you know.
Well, nothing wrong with keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Less moving parts, less can go wrong.
Right.
So I know you made a move in switch school districts and then jumped into the admin deal. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, that was it was one of those things. I was over in one district and my wife was in the district I'm in now. And, you know, we always get home and share stories about our work experience. And that was certainly where the grass looked greener on that side, you know, and there are districts that not all districts are created equal. Right. And, you know, the way it's run and the administration top down and all those kinds of things. And so I thought, hey, this would be a really great chance to get over there. And more importantly, my wife and I could actually have the same spring break for once.
Right.
But administration was one of those things where I never thought I would get into. It's like, no, I want to be a classroom teacher. And you see the suits up there and you're just like, what is that all about? And that's so far away from, you know, building relationships and working with kids and feeling like you're making a difference in their lives. But it got to the point where we had a brand new principal and she was just, you know, headhunting. It seemed like almost like her mandate from the district was get rid of all the old expensive teachers. And I was sitting there, since I had been there 24 years, I felt like I was kind of a veteran. You'd seen a lot of people come and go and they kind of needed a voice. And so I thought, I could do that. I know enough about, you know, teaching and what teachers are all about and what is important to them. And I can be their voice. And so I got into admin and realized, okay, in my class, I've got 5 periods a day, 30 kids, you know, so that's 150 kids that I can impact. But if as an administrator, that gives me an entire school that I can impact. Sure. And I can look for programs and stuff and just kind of widen that circle of influence. And, you know, it was one of those things where I felt like I was ready for it at that point. And the classroom was fine, but, and I still loved it and had the best days ever being in the classroom, but that's exhausting, you know, and you have to be on every day, you know, and you can't really have a bad day because the kids know it. And you feel like you've only got so many days a year to actually work with the kids. And if you miss that day, then you've just lost a full day.
Yeah. It's interesting. I told some people the other day that, you know, I didn't realize the workload and the strain and the stress until I stopped my head coaching experience and had a little bit of time to decompress. And I went, wow, I didn't know I was so under the gun. I didn't know that there was so much pressure to perform and those kind of things. And I think it just becomes a way of life. And once you let it go a little bit, it's a whole new deal, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. You don't realize the effect while you're in it. I don't feel like I'm under stress. And then you look back on it, you're like, wow, I was pretty stressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's neat. It's neat because I think a lot of athletes who get into education, have that ability to deal with the stress on a higher level, and then maybe even just the demands and the responsibility as opposed to stress. But it's nice to see guys that, and girls as well, that we've spent a lot of time in the last few weeks with athletes, and and they understand that level of intensity, and it's neat to see him perform and not really make a big deal about it. So it's pretty
right.
fun.
Yeah. I always love, like, when I meet my peers, and you can tell who those people were that like wanted to be a teacher when they were in second grade. The teacher said, "Hey, draw a picture of what you want to be," and they drew a teacher. And I drew astronaut. I drew football guy. There's all these teachers that didn't want to be teachers and became teachers, and then there's all these teachers that's their their passion and that they've had since they were a kid. And there's definitely some kids that can bounce off one group of teachers into the other. And I think a lot of us guys, like, I didn't start teaching until I was 30. And, I was like, I'm never going to do this. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of kids like my class. And I don't know if I don't take it seriously or I don't put so much pressure, or I don't know what it is about my class, but they like to come in and it's relaxed and we just do our thing. And,
well, I think creating that environment is huge, and that acceptance and everything.
Well, I think one of the things that I've sort of come to in the last 15 years is that I just don't take it personal. If somebody comes into my class and says, "Oh, this history is bull crap. I hate it. This is stupid. I can't believe we're doing this." If I had believed that I was going to do this since I was in second grade and it was my identity in life and I was history, I am history, I had spent 12 years in college, learning history, I think I might get offended by that. But for me, I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of you don't like this, but we got to get through. It's a graduation requirement, and I think that is a huge switch, I don't think, I know some of you guys aren't going to like it. It's not I'm not silly.
Yeah. But I also think that, I think that comes with age and maturity too. Yeah. Like when I was a first year teacher, man, I really wanted the kids to like me, and then as I got older and it was like, okay, I'm pretty secure in who I am and my family and everything. I don't really need their accolades as much. I just need to do a really good professional job with them. And, not like you said, you like history, you love history, but other kids don't. And that's okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'll tell you, we're obviously in a really different time right now with all the COVID stuff, and that's kind of been the focus. We've talked to a few nurses and people that work in the COVID units and other teachers and coaches, and it's really an interesting thing from an administrative point of view. When this thing hit, Craig, what was the general feeling about it? And again, it was coming at you guys probably 100 miles an hour. And what was the feeling during that time?
Yeah, well, it was really strange. I remember the day exactly because it was March 13th. It was a Friday the 13th, of course. Yep. And we were just told by the district that we need to shut down for 2 weeks. And it's actually 3 weeks because there was spring break coming up right then as well. Perfect. And it kind of filtered right in there. And we're like, we met the kids at the gate as they were all leaving for that weekend. And we said, let's just, do what we need to do. And we'll get through this. We're going to miss you guys like crazy. And, we'll see you soon. Work hard, all that kind of stuff. And no one thought, here we are basically a year later, and those kids still aren't on campus. Mm-hmm. And it's insane to see how it just, blew up. And nobody in their wildest dreams thought this would be the way it was going to be. And
it seemed like perfect timing. Like you guys were going to get the extra week. You weren't going to lose any instruction. 3 weeks, man, that's got to handle it, right?
Yeah. We thought that let this thing blow over, everybody get a handle on it and, get control over it. And we're ready to go. And it just spiraled.
At that point, obviously, the information started to come in and the kind of the parameters were starting to widen, was obviously lesson plans and plans are a teacher's best friend. What was the main focus to go forward, not knowing what the timeline was going to be?
Well, and so we kind of knew we had to go online for a temporary amount of time and just be an online class. And so we had some teachers that were, technical experts, and they were able to step up and do this just as fast as you can put together some sort of professional development.
Nice.
And I remember some older teachers, that were still using Abacus, having to use a laptop or something, and they were just terrified. And we kind of knew that learning and quality was going to drop, and we just had to get through it. And so here it was. We'd gotten through fortunately, we were 3/4 of the school year done. And so we only had 1 quarter left, and felt like there had been an awful lot already done really well in that year, that were, at our standards, so that we can just kind of stumble through it and realize, okay, we're take a little bit of a dip, but that's not that bad. When June came along and, it was the end of the year, we looked back and went, yeah, that wasn't good. And if we're to do this, and at that point in June, we realized we're probably in this for a little bit longer haul. That's when they say, okay, summer school is going to be 100% online. So we had a little short break there of a couple months of summer break to really PD all of our staff, and all of our teachers realized it. It was like one of the few times that you have 100% participation in summer professional development. And they were there, and it was collaborative across all 5 high schools in the district, and all the English teachers got together, all the math teachers got together, all the biology teachers, and they just planned, and they figured out how to upload video and content and exercises and activities. And, what does that look like? How do I break up into chat rooms, breakout sessions with my Zoom, and all that kind of stuff. And so we hit August, starting the new school year, feeling a lot better than we did in March. And I think the quality of education went up significantly. Is it as good as face-to-face? No way. But it's so much better than it was in that quick little, let's get that last quarter shut down. Right. But, and interestingly, and I think this is something that we're learning, is there actually are some kids that thrive in this environment. Yeah. They do way better online.
Amazing. Yeah.
They have 100% attendance, because they don't have to worry about it. They're not as peer pressured about the way they look and what clothes they're wearing and what shoes they have on, and getting bullied as much, things like that's huge. And
we had this idea. We had the principal 2 principals ago that was always talking about, we got to get them ready for what's next. And they just with the writing and the reading and the studying and the sort of ramping up our intensity. And I kind of turned it back on them. I'm like, listen, next year when they're in college, they're going to be fully online. My son's in college and he's been online for 2 years by choice. Yeah. I said, this is actually kind of like getting them ready for what's next, because everybody's wringing their hands. Oh, the children. I'm like, oh, these kids are pretty resilient, man. They're going to figure it out, and they know more than us in this area. So
yeah, and I think that's a huge point, because one of the things you were talking about, what is the impact of all of this, or what's COVID doing to education and everything? And a really great article I read where the argument is always, our kids are falling behind. Our kids are behind. And we're like, behind what? Okay, yeah, they might not be getting that core curriculum in the same way of their U.S. history standards. But what are they? That brain hasn't shut off.
Right.
And what are they learning? And how much resiliency and real life skills being able to adapt and overcome and not let this dictate you. And I've got to deal with family members who are getting sick or dying, and all that emotional stuff, and dealing with all of that. They are learning so much. Right. It's just not in this cute little package of education.
I was thinking that, you know, from my social studies background, I was thinking, Chuck and I have talked about this, you know, the idea that the greatest generation went through a lot of turmoil to become the greatest generation. They went through the Depression and the World War II, and that's what, you know, forged them into the greatest generation. And I thought, gee, you know, we have this pandemic that's creating a lot of this pressure especially between the ears. And I think if we don't take the opportunity to learn from this and guide the kids through this, you know, like, yeah, you got to have the pain, and you got to take the heat. It's going to be a little different. Your senior year is not going to be the same as you dreamed about, but you're going to be better for it in the end. You know, you're going to prove to yourself that you can, you know, outlast the tough times. I think that's massive. Everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Like, Tom, what are you doing? You know, at my school, everything's trying to be normal. Oh, we have to be normal. Let's just make it as normal as we can. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think we should embrace the suck on this deal and kind of like rally the kids through this and teach them that they can get, you know, to the finish line.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that when you try to manufacture normal, and you know it's not normal, it comes across pretty shallow.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And the kids read right into that, and they're not going to buy into that. You know, let's
Craig,
have a virtual prom, you know, you're like, no, it's not going to happen.
That's kind of where I wanted to ask you, because you talked about getting to June, and there was a first class that was going to miss a graduation. You know, there's parents are in somewhat of a panic, a lot of them. And now did the administration kind of shift to making sure that administrators were prepared to deal with that pushback in the parents, or was there just kind of that's your job and you know how to do it, go for it?
Well, yeah, that's funny because we weren't given, I mean, I think part of it is not so much of the attacks and heat and everything, the pressure, that really didn't fall too much on the site administrators. That really was, you know, superintendent and cabinet and the school board. If they're the ones that are saying this is what it's going to be, that's where that amount of pressure hit.
Right.
We weren't given any training. There was no professional development for us. We still did collaborative things though. Like, I'm the assistant principal of business and activities. So all the other business and activities people, we all got together and were led by a assistant superintendent and kind of talked about things and kind of did our own little, you know, I guess, you know, when you call it just sort of our own little cadre, where we would talk about everything B&A. And so that helped prepare us in that type of thing. But we had to do it. That was the first year we did what they call it, a drive up graduation. We tried to call it a drive through, and that sounded a little too fast food. We certainly didn't want drive-by graduation. So, you know, we're going to do a drive up. And it actually turned out better than anybody anticipated, because the whole family, you know, they were all piling into the car. And I think half of them looked like clown cars, you know, because there was like 27 people in one car. And but they got to pull up and be right across the stage from their student who gets their name read, their name called. You can actually hear it instead of in the stadium where the kid's like this big, you know, and they could all cheer and they could be a part of it because the student walked next to the car in a procession in their cap and gown. So they're doing the pomp and circumstance and they're walking up regally and getting their name read, and they go across the stage and get their diploma, and the family got to be a part of that. And then they get in their car and drive away to go to their family graduation party or whatever. And it was really a neat thing, instead of, you know, sitting there in this stadium that's super hot half the time. And then you got to find your kid in this massive, you know, humanity. And it seemed a lot cleaner. And so We turned it into a positive. Mm-hmm. And then this year they're like, well, you have to plan for both. It could be a stadium graduation or it could be a drive-through. And they go, but plan for a drive-through.
Craig, did the summertime give the teachers and the admin chance to kind of step back and get technology in order and do the tech stuff? And did it give you guys a good feeling rolling into the next semester, coming back from the summertime?
Yeah, that was the best thing, was having that little break. And number one, online classes is only going to be as good as the technology, and so our district made a huge investment, and every single kid had a Chromebook. Every single kid that didn't have Wi-Fi at their house got a hotspot. So, they needed to be able to connect, and we could follow through and see which kids were connecting and which ones weren't. And then, counselors and admin, everybody would be making those phone calls to get kids, connected. And, a lot of it is even taking attendance or taking roll based on who connects. And, we're at like 98%. Yeah. And doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the kid's focused and, right. Hot on task, but.
Do you guys mandate the cameras be on, or are they allowed to leave them off?
Well, you can't mandate it. I mean, you can say it, but, and you can request it. There's a lot of cameras off.
Yeah. My classes are like 100% cameras off. I don't see anybody's face. I don't see anybody nodding or shaking their head or rolling their eyes. I see nothing. I'm just staring in the void. Okay, guys, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Any questions? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Okay, go ahead and start your work.
It's really hard.
That's incredibly hard.
Yeah, and you get into privacy issues because now all of a sudden I got a camera into a kid's house.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's in the background or.
Well, I thought when the Zoom and Google had the blurred background, I said, "Oh, okay, that's good. Now we're going to flip the cameras on because you can blur out all the background on these with this software."
Right.
But no, they didn't budge on that thing. I was like, dang,
no.
Because my game is relationships. My game is having a relationship with a kid and asking them about their thing and this and that. And I want to know what they're doing and they know about me. And, I just was like, God, I can't do it now.
Was it your district was saying cameras off for everybody, or was it kids are just having the option and they choose not to?
Yeah, there was no mandate that they had to. So everybody, I pulled the shenanigans where, okay, when we have a test, you got to leave your camera on.
Yeah. And
then that kind of went away. They're like, yeah, we figured you out, Mr. Gordon,
Call your bluff.
Yeah, they sure did. I went,
yeah.
The kids are looking around like, oh, off,
Yeah, that's really the hard part. And, I don't know of a classroom where it's been 100% off, but, and we've actually seen it. It's starting, God, we've been in this for so long. It's starting to tail off. You're getting more and more cameras turned off than there were before.
Right.
I would say when we first started out, the majority were on.
I know St. Paul High School mandates that the cameras are on.
Yeah.
So, but they get like the forehead up, a lot of the forehead up things, the camera's on, but you can't see my face. You can just see my forehead or my ball hat, something like that. You see the ceiling fan.
That's the weirdest thing. I was on a Zoom with my buddy who's a baseball coach, and I was on the Zoom for a meeting, and the kids had that deal where you couldn't see their eyes. And then the next kid, and the more I looked at him, the more I went, oh, this is a thing. This is how you do it. So you're on camera, but nobody can really see you, and that's
Well, that's the Zoom version of the hoodie.
Yeah.
No kidding. Huh?
Sunglasses off, Junior.
Oh man, that was that. And I got on there and I was like, hey, this is stupid. I want to see your face. Get your face up in there. And they kind of were a little bit reticent to do it. And then they went, it's Coach Willig, and they went, okay, what's up?
The Coach? Prairie dogs started popping up.
But it was it was one of those things where I didn't realize it was a deal. And those things for teachers to have to deal with those things. There must have been a lot of a growth period for the teachers to get used to the frustration of that stuff, and
Well, and we've been pushing really hard, and I think this has been one of the positives of the administration was the message needed to be, let's control what we can control. And you can't control that. Let that go. And if you're sweating over that, that's too much stress right now. And what do we have control over, and what can we do, to try to help the kids have the best positive experience they can and get the most learning in. But there's too many variables out there.
Well, I was like, well, I think I should turn my camera off, and that freak everybody out.
Yeah.
What if I give you the same medicine? Because I have to sit there, if it's asynchronous and they're working on a reading or they're doing some vocabulary, I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay. Watching a documentary. Here you go. I scratch my nose. I forget that I'm on camera. I'm like, geez, I gotta behave myself here.
Well, if there wasn't a single camera on anywhere, does that mean the class really happened?
Right. The tree falls, right?
The tree falling in the forest. Absolutely.
That's the way it feels, it really does, for sure. We have actually a hybrid, Craig. So we have kids in the class, which I'm a cancer survivor guy, radiation patient. I look at those kids like which one of you guys is going to kill me? Like I really do. I'm sweating in class because I'm so afraid of the children that are sitting in my class. I've never had that experience because I've always liked the kids, and
never thought of them as that big.
Never thought of them as my reaper. But so we have kids in class, and then we have kids on the computer in that hybrid mode, and there's so many. It's hard for me to get my mind right every day. Like no matter how much I meditate, no matter how much I get the rosary out, no matter how much I'm like, it's like running an offense that I don't believe in, or it's running a defense that I don't believe in. It just doesn't, it's really difficult. It's been really hard for me personally, and then it becomes personal. Like, well, you don't care about my health. You like me as a teacher, but you don't care about my health. You could admit I finally told my principal, I was like, we have IEPs for kids and we have to follow them. Why can't we have IEPs for teachers that have special needs? And he just looked at me like, it's like, dang, he's a great guy. He loves me. He says, man, I love you, Tom, but I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything. You can take a leave of absence. I'm like, well, you're not going to pay me, are you? You're like, no. I'm like, well, that ends that, so it's been very difficult at my district for sure. And nobody around us is doing it except for one other district. So it's like, how could everybody else be doing it one way and we're doing it this other way? It's very, very, it's quite I hit the snooze button more than I ever did before. I used to snap out of bed and run to the door, put my sneakers on, let's go. And now I'm kind of like, get your head right, Tom. These kids need something more than, like you said, you need to be on today. You can't just phone it in.
Can't wing it.
Yeah.
No. And I think, Chuck, that is what leads you into, the next topic, which is, what is the impact on the staff? And that's the point that doesn't show up a whole lot in the newspapers. Everybody obviously is a child advocate, and there isn't a single person I know that doesn't want the kid back in the classroom.
Right.
But it's got to be done safely.
Right.
And, you saw the Chicago school district were mandated, get those kids back in the classrooms. And the teachers are like, nope, you can mandate all you want, but we're not doing it.
Right.
And because it's not safe. And I think everybody that's studied the COVID virus understands that, most of the kids will be just fine, even if they get it.
Yeah.
But it's the adults and it's the underlying circumstances like you talked about.
Yeah.
And it's me going home and dealing with my 90 and 85-year-old parents.
Right.
What am I transmitting to them? And even if I'm asymptomatic, what am I doing to them? And my wife and all those other people that, are part of my life. And that's not being talked about. And I think that, to me, that's the fundamental thing is if it is not safe for everyone, it's not safe for anyone.
Well, I go on Twitter. I probably shouldn't go on Twitter, but I go on Twitter and I remember in March and April and May, oh, the teachers, we didn't know how bad our kids were. God bless you. Give the teachers a raise. We had to spend 6 hours with our kid. We can't, oh, they're such pains in the butt. And now the pendulum has swung to we're hated, at least on Twitter, at least of those guys, like, oh, you're lazy. Well, don't give them a paycheck till they come back to school. I mean, I was like, whoa, this is such a short, you have no idea. I feel like a first-year teacher. I had to take every single lesson and make it digital because I was a very analog guy. I mean, I'll put up a PowerPoint and I'll give you a good lecture, and we'll do an activity and we'll boom, 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 and let's go. But now I'm doing it all. I have to just sort of recreate it. It's not content, but it's the delivery system is so much different. I come home and I record lessons. I come home and I record lectures every night.
Yeah.
People hard, man. It's hard to not be loved as a teacher. I mean, that's not why you get into teaching. Teaching is one of those deals where you're like, everybody kind of loves me a little bit. Like, it's like being a firefighter, everyone kind of loves a firefighter, so I'm taking it on the chin. I'm like, oh man. And then here I am, not being super enthusiastic about being face-to-face at this minute. 2 weeks from now, when I get my second vaccine, I'm going to be a lot better teacher, if you know what I'm saying. I just don't have that fear. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. And the teachers, they struggle with it because they want to be there. They want the kids to be there. They want to help out.
Right.
Everybody understands that's still the ideal.
Right.
But we're not there yet. And for somebody to just sacrifice the teaching staff is insane.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people like that you're seeing, everybody was talking about that with the economy.
Yeah.
We've got to open this. We've got to open that. We've got to have, but in the process, what are you sacrificing? Who are you putting out there at risk?
Right.
Just so you can, have your dine-in experience or something.
A lot of minimum wage people.
It's funny, Craig. We had a long conversation the other day about the they've had some of these rallies where it's let the kids play. They're trying to get the kids, trying to put pressure on whoever it is that they think is going to make these decisions. But and I termed it heavy as the head that wears the crown. If you're making those decisions, gosh, what a huge responsibility that is to say, yeah, let's get them back on the field and let's get them playing. And then what if one of your kids is a kid that dies? Are you willing to sacrifice or to live through that, just because of the pressure that, to get these kids back on the field? It's really, I have a lot of respect for even, Governor Newsom and those people. Everybody, they're getting tortured and they, and I'm not necessarily behind them, structurally, but to be the guys that have to make the call, you got to give those people respect.
Well, Chuck, this last thing is this was the amazing thing. Gavin says, all right, everybody can go back if you follow the guidelines. Okay. But the guidelines are almost impossible. So it's kind of like he kind of gave away the responsibility. Like, it's not on me anymore. I said you can go back if you follow the rules. But when I read the rules, there's no way that we can do the rules in my class the way I see it. I have 43 kids in every class, 42 kids in every class. There's no possible way that I can live by those guidelines. And then who's patrolling that? Who's policing that? My district wants to come back very, very, very badly, or at least a portion of them do. And they're the loudest. So we're going to get the kids back. And then now we're going to break rules every single day. What do I do? Stand outside my door and say, I'm not going to go in until we get this right? Well, am I going to pout and be a little bitch about it? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Who do I talk to? Because it ain't going to be right. And that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, Gavin held strong and he held fast. And I think he just went, I'm kind of done. I'm going to get recalled here in a minute anyways, if they have their way. And now it's on the school districts to figure this out. I don't see how that's.
How does that information come to you guys, Craig? Because I know it's the different the health departments in the states and the government, the federal government,
county. Yeah,
it just sounds like a lot of information to have to disseminate to make those decisions. At the school board level.
Well, it's with our school board and everything, we are 100% driven by LA County Health, and the Department of Health has certain numerical data out there to test, like how many new cases, what's the rate, of getting the COVID, how many are in ICUs right now, and what are the deaths happening. And so they look at all of that. And so like, I think for us to get to that, getting at least the staff mostly back on campus, they're saying like just arbitrarily, the case rate needs to be like at 25.
So you don't have any people on campus at all right now?
We have a very skeletal crew.
Oh, yeah. We have the full boat. We have the full.
No. We were actually told, why do you have 3 people in the office?
Yeah.
And then only 1 is needed per day. Keep the office open. You got to man the phones and emails and stuff. But, a lot of people can work from home. And so you look at all of that kind of stuff and you're saying, until those numbers come down to an acceptable level, this is going to be our response to it. And like for right now, the case rate was, I think after they adjust everything, it was like at 38 and it needs to get down to 25. And here we are already into February. So you just start projecting, where does that leave this school year? And you were talking, Tom, about, who polices this? Who's going to check the classrooms? Well, I'll tell you right now, I do.
Yeah.
That's my job right now. And we've been given guidelines of what we have to do. And you are exactly right. If I have a class of 43, unless I'm out in the field teaching, I can't get every kid 6 feet apart.
That's what my wife told me. She goes, go into a tree, go out there into a tree.
Yeah. We'll go back to the old, pastoral days of
Socrates
sitting under the tree.
And that's perfect.
I will do my what ifs.
I'll put on my Birkenstocks and we'll be fine.
And so we've been given very specific guidelines of this is what has to happen. This is what a classroom needs to look like. Our teachers union has been very vocal about what it needs to have for their staff to feel safe. Fortunately, our admin and school board, they don't want to sacrifice teachers, but they are getting pressure to open up stuff. CIF has been getting all kinds of let them play. We are looking at right now, I will tell you that our district has just reopened conditioning for athletes. But here is the really weird part or hard part, or like you're talking about all those variables and stuff out there. Our campus and our athletics have to be 100% separate, meaning that if I am a teacher and I'm on campus teaching out of my classroom on Zoom, and then I go out to the field at 3:00 and start teaching coaching my boys tennis team or something, and I come back onto campus, if any one of my tennis players gets, tested positive for COVID and everybody has to quarantine, we now have just shut down the entire school.
Oh, wow.
And so there can't be anybody on campus at that point. And that happened to Lucerna High School because of their sports and their athletics. They had 6 episodes, but they were unrelated. And yet, because it happened on campus, they shut down the whole school. And that was where our district and our school board said that will not happen again. If you want sports, okay, I get it. But it can't be something we're going to sacrifice academics for athletics, right?
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, it's funny because most coaches, their number one goal is to get other coaches on campus, and so it's an interesting,
well,
now that is kind of is a downfall.
Yeah, that's always been my goal as the assistant principal of activities and athletics, and hiring coaches and things. and it's funny because I went back and forth two ways on that. One was I really did want most coaches on campus, and just because of the relationships like you're talking about, and a huge resource that if a kid's screwing up in class, I go tell his coach, and guess who's sitting in at lunch, with that coach having a little talk about getting your act together. It was funny though, because when my son was playing club soccer, I had a talk with his coach, who's not a teacher, but just a club coach who's, was really good. And he's like, let me get this straight. You want your algebra teacher to be teaching your kid soccer? This guy played in the English Premier League, and you're like, who do I want? And so it's like, well, maybe I don't want every coach to be a classroom teacher. And to have somebody that's good at both is really hard, because that's even as a principal, you want really good scores in the classroom. You want the kids to be excelling in the classroom. And if I got a guy who's a coach but doesn't really know how to teach in the classroom, you are sacrificing a little bit. So you're always going to have that give and take.
So what do you see going forward, Craig? Everybody's pretty settled into where we're at, and I think everybody seems to have a plan, whether everybody likes it or not. There seems to be good, solid plans in place. What do you see as the biggest challenges going forward?
Well, I think it's just like what we've talked about a little bit, is that keeping everybody safe. When do we reopen? What does that look like? They're talking about, like, on buses, you can only have 25% capacity on a bus. So now all of a sudden your school district that used, let's say 100 buses is going to have to use 400 buses.
Yeah. Wow.
Or if they did 100 routes, they've got to do 400 routes. And where is that? Where are the resources for that?
Right.
And we were saying there's a lot of things that could happen, but financially a school doesn't have that ability. Not every school district has the ability to give every kid a laptop. That's expensive. Technology is expensive. And, and Wi-Fi and things like that. Getting teachers document scanners and cameras and stuff for their own classrooms. And, you're basically setting up little movie studios for every teacher to make this happen. And where's the resources for that come?
My biggest issue, Craig, was, okay, so I have to teach the kids in the classroom, and I have to teach the kids online. I have a mask on now because the kids are in the class. Now, how do I teach talking to a microphone? I mean, I talk into a microphone all the time, and I'm like, how do I do that with the mask on? And I was like, do I jam the thing up in there, or do I, it was unbelievable. And I got a big mask that I can talk in finally. And it's just like, my goodness gracious, these details are unbelievable, well, and I have to find my own.
And you look at that, what are the impact on that for, let's say, English learners?
Oh,
where I a lot of times if I'm reading lips, or I'm seeing your face and getting the context clues and hearing the enunciation properly, and all that gets muffled by that, it makes it really hard. And those are things that nobody even thought about.
Right.
And, so those are some of the challenges that are going forth there. It's financial. It's just the layout of a classroom. Do we have enough square footage?
Yeah.
If not, we got to bring kids in shifts. But a teacher can only work so many hours a day. So then do we just need more teachers? So there's a night school and a day school. You can just see where this, to make it fit right, it's pretty overwhelming. And so then a lot of times people look for, well, what's the best case scenario then? What can we sacrifice? What's an acceptable loss? I
was wondering if they were going to cut all the electives and just spread out English class into 3 classes and get the photo teacher to teach English, because it's only 10 kids or whatever. It's fascinating.
But I mean, come on, how many kids come to school for algebra? But they're coming for their choir teacher, or they're coming for their art class, or they've got this, you know, it's
college.
So yeah, we'll do the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we've lost their soul in the process.
100%.
One of the great fears that somebody mentioned to me the other day is that this is going to have a huge financial effect on schools in another year down the road. So it's not, you know, we're pumping so much of our financial resources into handling what's going on now that it's going to take its toll, and teachers are going to get laid off, and there's going to be a lot of thinning of the herd of the staffs and those kind of things. Is that something that is being talked about, Craig, or is that?
Well, it's been interesting because this year we actually have a lot of money. Part of it was there has been some government money out there for, you know, providing the types of things that a school needs to still operate. Unexpected finances they realize that schools need help with. But we saved a ton of money on transportation.
Electricity.
You've got those kinds of things. Paper of teachers, you know, making, you know, desktop novels, you know, when they create their
scouting reports for the football.
Well, let's not get into that, you know. But you know, they found all kinds of money that they used to have to spend on, they didn't have to spend on right now.
Interesting.
You know, so that part's been good. And so like what we were talking about from the activities side was we need this kind of money for this, or this. And we know the curriculum side has a lot of money because they didn't spend on all those teacher classroom supplies and stuff that they needed.
Right.
So can we shift some of that over to the activity side and things like that? In terms of the future, they are saying that, you know, in the future, there is going to be more of a cost that has happened. And you're kind of working on like this year is like the free money, but next year that won't be like that. And so, right. You know, they're expecting everybody to be back. And if that's the case, they are going to need some extra finances. And a lot of the school districts feel pretty good about it that have planned for that and saved. But there's also those districts that are struggling.
Yeah. One of the cool things to kind of move into a little bit of a more positive thought.
Yes, please.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I gotta
go to school tomorrow.
an AP English teacher that said that at the end of the first COVID semester, she had more kids pass the AP test at a higher level than ever before, which I thought was just amazing, you know. And how are the test scores lining up at this point? And are we enthused about the fact that you know we're not that education isn't suffering to a point where kids are not able to function at the levels that they were before?
Yeah, well, this year we're not even sure yet about testing.
Yeah.
They're talking about plan for it, but there's no guarantee that they're going to have, you know, the same kind of state testing that they've had in the past. AP has said, yes, we're still gonna test. You know, we changed our schedule where we call it the 3-9 system, where we only have 3 classes for 9 weeks. And so, but because of those 3 classes are kind of doubling up, you get a full semester's credit in a quarter.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
So if you've got 6 periods, you only have to focus on 3. So the kids like that I only have 3 classes I need to worry about right now. And one of them might be the elective, which isn't as, you know, academically strenuous. And so I can put more energy towards my AP class, and those results should be there. And those teachers feel good about those. And usually those AP kids, they're the ones that thrive on their own anyway. And a lot of them do like this format. Yeah. And, you know, I always used to say when I was an AP teacher, it was like, just get out of their way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm slowing you guys down. You know?
Forces of nature.
Right.
Find a way to let them just run, you know, and those kids are thriving. It's the other kids, though, that aren't necessarily taking those AP tests, you know. That's what we really need to focus on. Where's that going?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Craig, that's some great information. I'm going to leave this conversation a lot more enthusiastic about where we're at, just to get some basic information and to see your frame of mind and attitude toward it. It gives us like I said, I think we're in good hands, and a lot of people are making good decisions. And I'm really glad that most of the leadership that I'm seeing out of the schools are really, people are stepping up and being positive and finding ways to make this thing work. It's pretty impressive on a lot of levels. And I tend to look at the bright side of things, but I think it's we don't want to deny that they're there. I know a lot of people are struggling, and there's teachers that are unhappy and that kind of thing. But I think going forward, take away all the rhetoric. There are a lot of quality people doing a quality job right now, and we, as Americans, I like to think that we rally to these times,
Mm-hmm.
and even though we've gone through a lot of really crazy times, and we could make a whole nother podcast about that, but that's not the point. But I appreciate you sharing so much, and toward the end here, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in your life, and what. Are you getting any traveling in? Are you getting any, your hobbies? What are you doing? And what's your bucket list going forward here?
Well, if anybody really cares about that,
I do.
Yeah.
No, I think it's certainly not traveling yet, because there hasn't been a whole lot of options.
Right.
But it's one of those things in my own life of a shift. I'm looking towards that. When do I get to retire? My wife is already retired, so it's one of those where you have to leave her every morning, and you're like, that looks pretty good, just sitting there with a cup of coffee still. So I think that's in the future. Still doing a lot of projects around the house, but we're DIYers, so that's nice. A lot of fun. I've been reading like crazy. That part's been fun. I think the biggest thing is what we've missed is family. You just can't get together with all of them as much as you would have liked to, and those milestones and Christmases and birthdays and anniversaries where you used to have a great party together.
I turned 50 last summer, right in the middle of COVID. I was like, what?
That's the biggie. The semi-centennial, and it was just like crickets and tumbleweeds.
I know. I wasn't even getting like Facebook things. I was like, dang, this sucks.
Yeah. Those kinds of things. My wife and I think have grown a lot together. We felt nice. Like our relationship has gone up because of this.
Oh,
and
that's great.
You like you said, you find the positives in stuff. And I would just go back to your comment that I agree 100% that a lot of people have just done Herculean efforts to keep education going. And like Tom, you said, people realized at one point, wow, teachers really do a lot, because my kid's sitting at home and I can't control him. And yet you got him for 6 hours a day and somehow you get him to, stuff like that. So I think that's all positive things. With me personally, I am trying to, the hard part is you just can't plan, because you just don't know. And so you have to have a plan A and a B and a C and a D. And that's tiring. That's exhausting, and things change quick. And we have the joke is, well, everything I say is good for 4 minutes. And then it could change right after that.
Every news cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. But those are all good things.
Good. Well, we're gonna throw some quick flow questions at you and see if you can't run through these, and we'll have a little fun before we finish up, and we'll see what the inner workings of your Sunday morning brain are right now. That'll be fun.
I don't know that you want to get inside that head, because once you get in, baby, there's no getting out.
The Matrix. All right, Craig, what is your desert island top 5 records?
Whew. So are we talking singles or albums?
You can do double albums if you want. It's up to you.
Well, of course, Fleetwood Mac Rumors has got to be up there for me. I'm a 70s kid, so Eagles' Greatest Hits.
Nice.
Would be another one. Chicago. Probably Chicago Transit Authority was a great album.
Nice.
Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Nice. We don't
and
need
then
no
some-
education.
And then some Led Zeppelin thing. Probably Led
Led
Zeppelin 2,
Zeppelin.
probably.
That's
And then I'm
awesome.
good.
Good one.
Who is one person who made an impact on your life that doesn't know it?
That is a great question. I will tell you that this is what got me basically where I'm at today. I was in college. I was a business major for the first 2 years. I had to take just a remedial, not remedial, but English 101 class. And I had a professor who, I don't know how, he just took an interest in me. And he called me out one day before class and said, I want you to help me read this story to the class. And it was a little dialogue like Huck Finn thing or something. And he and I went back and forth. And all of a sudden now I'm like 2 or 3 books ahead in my English class. And I'm way behind in my statistics class,
Right.
which we used to call sadistics. But and that guy never knew that I switched and became an English major instead of a business major. And so then later on, even though I was in business, when that teacher said, hey, you ought to get into teaching, I had an English degree and I could do that.
Nice.
So that guy, I'm sure he's long gone, but
you remember his name?
I really don't. That's what's even more sad about it.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
I know exactly what he looks like.
Yeah.
But
that's perfect. That's great.
You never know what impact you have on somebody.
No, there's no doubt, right?
Yeah.
What's one thing every young person should know? Kind of broad.
Every young person should know. They should know a work ethic.
Right on.
Because once you have that, everything else will take care of itself.
Nice. Very cool. If you had Bezos money, what would you spend it on to make your country or your community stronger?
Yeah,
I think we kind of talked about it.
I don't know why they're not doing it anyway.
Right.
You vaccinate everybody, you end world hunger, you take away the need, and then all of those societal ills lessen a whole lot. When people have the basics taken care of, those other things will always happen, but
the pyramid, right?
Need is just huge. And if we can get rid of that, lessen it.
Are teachers getting vaccinated in LA County?
Not yet. We just got a thing from our district that over 65 will in our district. Our districts, because we're a high school district, we pooled with middle school and elementary schools of the Whittier area.
Nice.
And so all of those are partnering with Presbyterian Hospital. And they're going to be doing it like February 12th.
Nice.
They're going to allow all educators 65 and over to get theirs first. And then the next wave will be, just work their way down to all the teachers. That's
cool. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know what LA's lagging. I mean, I was able to get my first dose in Orange County. It's crazy. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Well, like you look at it, like Long Beach has their own healthcare, their health department, I mean, so they can dictate who gets their stuff. The problem with LA County is their size.
Yeah.
They're so big that, and I only have so many vaccines.
Right. I'll tell you what I learned a huge lesson about this year is the difference between a unified school district and a union school district. The idea that the decisions that are being made for my 12th graders are the same decisions that are being made for a second grader in our district. We're combined, and the elementary school teachers outnumber the high school teachers. It's like we have no shot to get any kind of love coming our way. Even on PD, we'll have 10 PDs and 7 of them will be elementary and 3 of them will be high school.
Well, I came from a unified K-12.
Yeah.
And the benefit is you have a K-12 plan and exactly everybody's building towards the 12th grade.
There's a ladder.
So I can put in everything, that I need to get that framework there. But like you said, the benefit of a high school district is we only worry about high school stuff.
Only worry about high school.
Yeah, it's huge.
What's the one thing you're most excited about these days? Anything? What's floating your boat?
Probably for me, retirement.
How far are you away?
Making plans. Well, I pretty much qualify. So it could be at any time. It just has to make financial sense. But there's a lot of, like, we're looking at that as, you know, you could hit that with when things open up again and you can travel. Like right now, it's been a great time to still work.
Yeah.
You know, because there's been a lot of challenges and you're staying busy.
When my financial advisor tells me the difference between 60 and 62, I have to give him the side eye. I'm like, you son of a gun. You're just pulling me back in with that gigantic leap in money. You know, it's like, what in the world?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a straight line. It's like, whoop, you know, all of a sudden it goes away up.
Absolutely.
Like, man, do you really want me to be teaching at 62 or 65? I mean, do you really want that? I mean, get me out of here.
You get to the point of diminishing return.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, I'm a high salary guy. You know, it's like, get some young kid in here. Well, I have a speed round for you.
Fantastic.
Okay. This is just a more thing.
Okay.
Okay. You just tell me what pops into your head.
All right.
So, Elvis or Jerry Lee Lewis?
Elvis.
Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Ford or Chevy?
Ford.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Whiskey or tequila?
Whiskey.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Baseball or football?
Football.
Blonde or brunette?
Brunette. My wife would kill me.
No hesitation. Let's be clear. Let's let everyone. There was no hesitation.
There was no hesitation.
Well, the next one is J-Lo or Selma, so we can skip that one if you want. You don't have to say that. It's a little misogynistic as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, Batman or Superman?
Superman.
World War II or Vietnam?
World War II.
And the last one, Vin Scully or Chick Hearns?
Vin Scully.
All right.
Nice. Very good.
But you know, we were talking about that the other day. LA had the most amazing sports announcers. You go Chick Hearn, you go Vin Scully, Bob, who was the Kings guy?
The other Kings guy was amazing too. Bob.
Yeah. I don't know. I just know Bob. But to think that one market had they were the top of their field in all different sports was what a blessing to grow up into.
My roommate in college was a Chicago guy, and he was always trying to say something about Chicago. I'm like, Harry Carey is a clown. I mean, he wasn't a polished. He wasn't a good announcer. I don't know. We had these fights, you know. Chicago.
Yeah, of course. Everybody likes their own hometown.
Oh man.
Craig, thanks again for coming on with us. I think it was great to, like I said, get some good information, and I think the people will appreciate our 5 listeners who listen to the show.
Yeah.
Well, you got to subscribe, Craig. You got to subscribe. Get your
I know. Well, I appreciate it, you know, and it's one of those things where this is just my own stuff, and you know, I hope it's helpful to somebody, but you know, I certainly am not an expert.
Well, it's not. Again, we appreciate sharing the information, and then you know, obviously, people can make a judgment on their own. But at least understanding a little bit about coming from an administrator was important, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, I will be in touch.